Hey guys, what is up? How's it going? This is Furgie here, back from A Squad with another Elder Scrolls Online Tamriel Unlimited video. And I just want to apologize for the gigantic absence we've made from the channel. I know it's been a couple weeks, but school has just started, and I had a little bit of trouble at first getting back into the swing of things and managing my time correctly. But now we should be just fine now that we've gotten started. So today we're going to be looking at Direfrost Keep. This is a dungeon located in East March, and it's basically an overtaken, I guess, keep. Down in the southeastern part of the zone. So let's jump right into it here. Basically, this dungeon is not too difficult. There's a few bosses that might give you a little bit of trouble, but most of them are just pretty much loot fests. So this first guy is Teeth Gnasher, the Frostbound, and he really doesn't do much. He's a troll, my least favorite enemy in the game. Thankfully, he's not as fast as regular trolls. So really, all you want to do is have your most armored player take his auto attack damage, because it's pretty hefty. And then just don't get too close to him. If you're melee, really, you just want to jump in and out of this zone that's around him. As you can see here, he has this constant AoE of like ice shards around him. And if you can avoid that, I mean, if you're ranged, this won't be a problem at all. But if you're melee, just hop in and out of it. He should fall down pretty quickly. Not too big of a deal at all. Now, the ad engagements in this dungeon are all pretty generic. There's just going to be a lot of drag war. There's melee ones, some wizard-related ones, and some ranged ones. And we're going to follow the usual priority that we do with ads. It's going to be ranged first, which is the archers and the wizard type. I mean, there'll be pyromancers and frost mages and things like that. And then finally the melee. Really, if you can just focus on the ranged enemies while kiting the melee and blocking their attacks, it's not going to be too big of a deal for you, because the range will sit back, as you can see, like right back here, and just pick away at you with their arrows. And that's really irritating, and that's what's going to bring about a majority of your deaths. Honestly, I see more deaths in ad fights than I do against bosses, just because of the unorganization of things with all the ads and whatnot. Another thing real quick, I want to thank both these guys that are doing this run with me. I had to do this run a couple times. I do have a little bit of other footage, but this was a pretty good run, and we did everything pretty cleanly. I don't think any deaths, maybe one or two, but besides that, it was a good run. Both these guys were really helpful, so shout out to both of them if they see this, or if you know any of them. Second boss we're going to look at here is called the Guardian of the Flame. He sits in the central cavity of this entire dungeon, and we will come back here a couple times. And really, there's not much to him. He is a melee character. He's going to throw down these AoE area of effects on specific players, like as you just saw him do there. It's going to throw around, there he did it again, these little ice shards, similar to the last boss, except all you have to do is run out of it, avoid it. It's pretty slow. The other thing he'll do is he has a pretty powerful, really small frontal cone attack that he's going to use on his targeted player, which is also, there it is right there, which is also a gigantic knockback, and it's going to do quite a bit of damage. He actually lands on one of my allies here, so watch out for both of those things, and he's really not a big deal. Have your tank do his kiting, have your healers healing the tank, and your DPS shouldn't be taking that much damage at all, because they should be able to avoid that AoE pretty easily. So another fairly simple boss, getting you ready for the more difficult ones. Alright, so next we're going to take a left off of this central area. We can't actually go up yet towards where the final boss and another optional boss is located. We're going to kill a ton of packs of Dragor. There's actually only one boss over here, but she's a little bit trickier, and I'm actually going to give you a demonstration of what happens when you don't handle her correctly. But all of these Dragor packs work exactly the same. Some of them are a little larger than the others. Some of them have only 2 or 3 enemies, and they're really not a big deal at all. As you get further in here, we're going to see some frozen soldiers, but they behave exactly the same way as Dragor. So follow the same priority. I think they might only be melee, at least in this area, so it's really not a big deal. Just do what you've been doing the rest of the dungeon. Work your way down through this ongoing cavity of tunnels, and eventually you will reach the end, where we have a very simple puzzle to get to the next boss. Alright, so once you reach this room after 2 or 3 packs of ads, there's going to be another gigantic kind of mass of ads in here. This is a pretty difficult room, actually. You need to be kind of careful. There's a lot of melee that can be beating away at your range, or anyone actually, and a lot of range as well. So really, your healer needs to be on his game here. As you can see, I am on the brink of death. Thankfully, our healer is doing a great job. And pretty much follow the priority, do your kiting. Really, I had no business even being in the middle of the room there, because you can just get beaten to a pulp by all of the melee ads. So be mindful of that, because that can get you killed there pretty easily. Now, there is a puzzle in this room to open this gate, and if you can't figure this out, you should probably find a different game to play, because I've never seen anything this simple. I guess it's one of the few puzzles that are actually in the game, but basically there are 2 platforms in front of these large obelisks, and you need to have one player stand on one and one player stand on the other, and the gate will open. Pretty self-explanatory, and then you can hop down from that platform and take on the next boss. Next up here we have Dadra's Dreadlord, and this is more of a fun boss. It's the hardest so far. It might be one of the harder ones in the dungeon if you don't pay attention to the mechanics, but she's actually a pretty good time. Basically, her primary thing you need to be aware of is that she's going to throw out these little tiny suicide bombing imps, I guess it is. They're going to run out from corners of the room, and if they get close to one of your players, one or two of these guys can take you down, and they're just going to deadline you. So pretty much watch out for these guys. You won't see a lot in this run here because we killed her pretty quickly, but in the next one I'm going to show you what happens when you do not handle her correctly. So the only other thing she does is she'll have a big AoE whirlwind move she'll use. It's really not that big, it's pretty little, so just stay out of that, be aware of that, and avoid her auto attack because that also does quite a bit of damage. Here I'm going to show you guys what happens when you handle this fight incorrectly. I jumped down, didn't realize I was pulling. Here come the imps. Boom, boom, and things just go south from there. So although some of these fights may look easy, you can handle them very incorrectly and die very swiftly. There she is, one-hitting me with her auto attack, and things just did not go well in this run. I thought I'd show you guys that just for a little bit of fun. After that fight, you're going to head back out, and we're going to head towards the central cavity once again. There's actually going to be another boss fight in there. We're going to have to take down a couple trolls. As I said, I hate trolls, but when you have other people with you, it's a little bit easier. I just hate how quick they are, how much damage their auto attack does. They're very difficult to solo, especially since I'm wearing light armor and things like that. But there's only a couple of them, one more pack of ads, I believe, maybe, and then you will be back into the central cavity where we'll take on a triple boss here. This is going to consist of Agamar, Gardath, and Orva, and all three of these they don't say they're elite bosses, but they have quite a bit of health, so I think it only says that because they don't have any really specific moves that they're going to use. Basically, they just perform the role that they look like. So we have a heavy armored kind of tanky guy, some dude with an axe that does a lot of damage, and then Orva does some range damage with her staff. They do quite a bit of damage and they have a lot of health, so just I would focus on Orva first and kite the other two around and blocking their attacks as you saw me do there. And so pretty much the priority here should be Orva, Garmath, and Agamar because he'll do the least amount of damage. Garmath will do a little bit more than Agamar with his charge attack, and Orva will do quite a bit, especially from a range. So do it in that order. This is a pretty easy fight. I can't see you failing in this unless maybe you don't pay attention to Orva at first, but this is a pretty simple fight, so enjoy your free loot once again and prepare for the next two final bosses. Alright, so now we're going to head back up the stairs north towards where we couldn't go earlier. We're going to have a ton of frozen soldiers. As I said, they perform just like Dragor do, and we've got 2 or 3 packs of these. They're pretty gigantic, so I would be kind of careful, mindful of the priority. Don't go in there just spamming moves. And actually, next we're going to have a optional boss. Now, I would highly suggest taking him down, as he's very easy. He doesn't have any difficult moves, and there's usually a chest or two behind him to pick, and just more free loot. I think it was either on this run or another run I actually got 2 epic drops from him at once, so it's a pretty good deal. I would highly suggest doing that. You're going to head, kill 2 more packs, and then we're going to have this giant kind of icy platform here that we can go out on, and we're going to spawn him up and take him down. Basically, he doesn't have anything that he does that's very unique at all. He's just a gigantic, what's an ice animation or whatever they're called, and fire damage does quite a bit to him. I'm a pyromancer. My other buddy in here also did a lot of fire damage, so we melted him pretty swiftly. All he's going to do really is just throw up these kind of stalactite things or stalagmites out of the ground, and you're going to have to be mindful of these and avoid them. He's also got a little AoE and a frontal cone, both of which are very easy to avoid. He's kind of slow, so you can just kite him if you're like this. If he targets me like this, as you can see, I'm just kiting and continuing to cast my moves while my partners do their thing. We really didn't even take that much damage in this fight. There's his AoE attack, which I did not get out of the way of, but even that doesn't do too much damage. So really, if you skip this boss, I don't know what you're thinking, but there's he's using his kind of chrysalis attack. We killed him so quickly, though, it really wasn't a big deal at all. So I would definitely suggest taking him down. Don't skip him because it's just more free loot. One of the easiest fights in the dungeon. Alright, so now we're going to head up one more flight of stairs, kill one more pack of ads, which I didn't bother to show you. And we're going to reach the hardest boss in this dungeon, and also the final one, Dadra of Ice Reach. Now, I guess she is the controller of this keep now, and now that she's overtaken it, and she has a couple moves that are a little difficult. She also calls in some ads during this fight, so I would be mindful of that. She has this big AoE she'll use. She'll teleport to individual players, but her most important move is the one you see her do now, and this is a gigantic sap. She's going to pick up a player and sap the life out of them, and it gets more and more damage intensive over time. So basically what you want to do is conserve as much stamina as possible to be able to break out of this, because she will kill you very quickly. So especially if you're a stamina based class, I would not use as many moves as you possibly can, just to ensure that you can get out of that if it's used on you, because it will most likely kill you. The other thing she'll do is she'll call in these little ice wraiths. I would basically just ignore them because they'll disappear once you kill her, or just use kind of some passive AoE damage to bring them down. But if you can control those three mechanics, mostly the sap, you should be just fine in here. If you can kind of ignore the wraiths, and this should be a pretty easy final fight for you, honestly, even though it's the most difficult in the dungeon. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was an informative video. I hope you run this dungeon yourself, you take it down with ease, and you get some fantastic loot. Again, I want to apologize for the absence. We're going to have a lot more videos coming soon on a lot of different games. We're getting close to the game slam of October, November, December, so look out for a lot of those. Thanks for watching, and we will see you all next time back on A Squad.